Animal health and food security. According to the report, over 350 million people were malnourished in Asia-Pacific in 2019, accounting for roughly half of the global total. In the region as a whole, an estimated 74.5 million children under the age of 5 were stunted, or too short for their age, and 31.5 million were wasting, or too thin for their height. In this episode we are discussing about food security, which points to the four following dimensions: food availability, access, utilization, and stability. Food security exists when all people, at all times, have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Dimensions of food security. Food availability refers to the availability of sufficient quantities of food of acceptable quality, whether produced domestically or imported, including food aid. Food access. Access by individuals to adequate resources, entitlements, for acquiring appropriate foods for a nutritious diet. Entitlements are defined as the set of all commodity bundles over which a person can establish command given the legal, political, economic, and social arrangements of the community in which they live, including traditional rights such as access to common resources. Utilization. Food utilization refers to the process of utilizing food through an adequate diet, clean water, sanitation, and healthcare, in order to achieve a state of nutritional well-being in which all physiological needs are met. This demonstrates the critical role of non-food inputs in ensuring food security. Stability. In order to be food secure, a population, household, or individual must always have access to sufficient food. They should not be exposed to the risk of food insecurity as a result of unexpected shocks, such as an economic or climate crisis, or cyclical events, such as seasonal food insecurity. As a result, the term stability can refer to both the availability and access aspects of food security. Climate change, population growth, rising food prices, and environmental stressors will all have significant but uncertain effects on food security in the coming decades. Global change adaptation strategies and policies are urgently needed, including options for managing water allocation, land use patterns, food trade, post-harvest food processing, and food prices and safety. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in September 2015, which includes 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. The new agenda, which is based on the principle of leaving no one behind, emphasizes a holistic approach to achieving sustainable development for all. When carefully considered, there are SDGs that address food security in a variety of ways, such as SDG 1, No Poverty, which results in food access, utilization, and stability. In the long run, this may improve the health and well-being of the population, which refers to SDG 3 in areas where poverty remains the primary obstacle to survival. SDG 2. Zero hunger. End hunger, achieve food security, and improved nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. This goal aims to directly address food security issues that persist in many vulnerable areas around the world nowadays, as well as food scarcity in the coming decades as a result of the world's growing population and other influencing factors such as climate change and pandemic diseases. Another interesting point that we have to face shortly is problem of land uses and animal protein supply, which requires intensive production and have a number of unintended consequences, including intensive land use and intensive production of agricultural products, such as crops for livestock feeding. This has an indirect effect on human food sources, as humans also consume plants as a staple food. Climate change and greenhouse gas emissions from intensive livestock production and human behavior result in a decline in agricultural production quality and quantity. Production loss due to the emergence of new diseases and pandemic outbreaks of animal diseases. Finally, this will be a complex problem with no ideal solution, similar to antimicrobial resistance issue. The most critical aspect of livestock production is animal health, as it directly reflects the economic consequences of production losses in terms of meat quality and quantity, which are linked to food availability and accessibility. From the previous decades to the present, a number of emerging diseases have harmed animal health, including in 2004 to 2005, highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI, caused a shortage of poultry supplies, escalating world poultry prices, and a precipitous decline in global poultry trade. The overall price impact on poultry prices in 2004 and 2005 was exacerbated by shortages of other meats, particularly beef from North America, a region that historically supplied 1/4 of global beef trade due to concerns about bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or BSE. In 2014, the United States suffered economic and production losses as the world's largest producer of chicken and turkey meat, and the second largest producer of chicken eggs as a result of HPAI outbreaks. Between December 2014 and June 2015, the United States lost over 50 million chickens and turkeys to HPAI or were destroyed to stop the disease's spread. These birds accounted for approximately 12% of the table egg-laying population in the United States, and 8% of the estimated inventory of turkeys raised for meat. Another example is foot and mouth disease, FMD, a severe, highly contagious viral disease that has a significant economic impact on livestock. Cattle, swine, sheep, goats, and other cloven-hoofed ruminants are all susceptible to the disease. The disease is not easily transmitted to humans, and does not pose a threat to public health. However, it does have a significant impact on livestock production and disrupts regional and international trade in animals and animal products. The disease is estimated to affect 77% of the world's livestock population, primarily in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, as well as a small area of South America. Recently, the introduction and spread of African swine fever, ASF, in China and throughout much of Southeast Asia in 2019 underscores the region's economic and trade importance of animal diseases. China raises approximately 50% of the world's pigs, a $128 billion industry. The industry is a critical component of the national economy, providing employment and food security for a large portion of the population. According to current estimates, at least 25% and possibly as much as 55% of China's national herd has been lost to disease and culling since the disease was first reported. It has had an equally disastrous effect on livelihoods and food security in neighboring countries. While livestock will continue to be a source of human food in the near future, limited of land and water utilization may relegate it to a secondary source of protein, or the cost of this type of protein may be higher than others. These are just a few examples of food of animal origin production being negatively impacted by animal health issues. Veterinarians are critical in the prevention and control of animal disease, in order to maintain the health and quality of livestock production. In other words, veterinary professionals contribute to global food security. In terms of food security, researchers are focusing their efforts on developing alternative methods of feeding the world population, such as cultured meat production, which is more popular in Western countries, and edible insect farming, which is becoming more popular in Asian countries. There are numerous examples of protein source production that will eventually feed the world's population in the future.